we're going to jump right into it. And if you're on YouTube, you can follow along with the mock draft that hasn't been published yet, but I'm able to kind of preview it. So it looks like it's been published on justbaseball.com. The actual full mock draft will be published right after we finish the second episode. So that should be out about the 5th or 6th as well. Let's dive into it. Pick number 1, Jack. No suspense here. And there should not be suspense here. Pittsburgh Pirates take Dylan Crews for the full slot value of $9.721 million. Outfielder, LSU. Let's not overthink this, man. Let's just not overthink it.
There's some conversation because you play the slot money game, and that's why we love the MLB draft, because it is way more layered than the others. In the NBA and the NFL, the drafts that get, the most pub, like you just take the best player available for the most part, and you don't think about the money. With the bonus pool and slot values, like you get to think about the money. Unfortunately, you have to think about the money. So I think a lot of the conversation about, hey, is it not going to be Dylan Crews, is stemming around him needing to command full slot. He's a Boris guy. He's going to get full slot. And you know what?
He deserves
full slot.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I was just trying to think about the two guys at the top of this mock. And I think it's been established, and Pete Flaherty did a great job establishing it on the Call Up and the Just Baseball show. Skenes is the best pitching prospect since Steven Strasburg.
Yeah.
In the draft. My thing is, I was trying to go back and look for the best hitting prospect.
It's got to be Adley.
You think Adley was more well regarded than Crews?
It's a little apples to oranges. I know it's hitters, pitchers. We try to make it black or white there, but it's hard when you're comparing a switch hitting catcher who is as prolific as Adley was in that final year or the final 2 years. But to your point, Adley didn't have the high school first round, pedigree. Like Dylan Crews could have been a first round pick out of high school. He didn't really immediately make an impact as a freshman. He was kicking and, for the football team and also playing a little baseball. But I think by the time you got to draft day, when you looked at how can't miss Adley was perceived as, I do think that it's kind of that same boat there. So I would say, yes, they're the same caliber prospect, and that's extremely high praise.
Yes, and I was going to say, if it's not Adley, if you were to give Crews the slight edge as the college hitter over Adley Rutschman, I personally think you have to go all the way back to Bryce Harper in 2020. Wow. I think, hindsight's 2020, but Correa in 2012, Crews seems a bit more surefire than Correa was in 12. And then, Dansby Swanson, the conversation was there with Bregman and Brendan Rodgers in 2015. And then you've got Moniak, Royce Lewis, Torque, Henry Davis in 21, Jackson Holiday in 22. So I do think if it's not Adley Rutschman, Dylan Crews is the most surefire number one hitter since Bryce Harper in 2010.
Yeah. I sent you a couple pictures because I want to talk about Crews specifically as the floor and the ceiling. When you look at number one, you're always dreaming on the ceiling. When you say number one pick, he's, what does he do proficiently? And, what can I,
5-tool perennial all-star center fielder.
But what stands out the most to me is the floor as well. Even if he doesn't tap into the top end of all of his tools, how many times did you hear about his 2010 vision, by the way, in the College World Series? That kind of got borderline annoying. Yeah. But to a point, he has ridiculous plate discipline. Chase rates are so low, but also the field of hits there. And on top of that, 108 mile per hour, 90th percentile, or maybe higher than that. We're just smashing baseballs. But when you pair the approach, the field of hit, and the power, the floor is so high there. I think we heard a little bit of the rumblings of the Pirates underslotting because they underslotted the number one pick with Henry Davis. But Henry Davis, as you can see now, is very easily was the number one prospect in that draft. And there was nobody that was a clear-cut one. It was Henry Davis, Jack Leiter, Jackson Jobe, Marcelo Meyer, and Colton Cowser, and goes on from there. This is the clear-cut best player. It's just a different circumstance here. I thought the Pirates did it brilliantly that time around with Henry Davis, but this is different. You don't need to overthink it. But for me, before we move on to pick number 2, I think what really stands out to me with Crews is how high floor the offensive profile is while providing that high ceiling. Beyond that, you have a guy here that, I think if it all clicks, you have that perennial all-star, as you mentioned. I sent you the two pictures. I can't put them on here because it's something I can't really share publicly. But the heat maps of his whiff and his contact rates, the contact rate was just red hot the whole zone. And then the whiff as one of those like contour heat maps, the only hot part of the heat map in the zone was above the top of the strike zone. So there was nothing in the strike zone that was warm in terms of the contour on the map, which just shows you that there's really no way to beat Dylan Crews other than to get him to expand, and he doesn't expand. Like, what the hell are you supposed to do?
No, Peter and I were talking about on the Just Baseball show, and Peter was like, how much better can he actually get? And I was like, you're saying that because he's already perfect, pretty much. Like, we saw as close to a perfect baseball player in college as we've seen in years. And I think Crews put the conversation to bed that he's the greatest player in LSU history over Alex Bregman. It's crazy to think LSU, one of the most storied college baseball programs in the country, just had the best hitter in their university's history in Dylan Crews, and the best pitcher in their university's history in Paul Skenes. And Skenes passed up Ben McDonald for the SEC record for single season strikeouts. But Crews, do you have the college slash line up? Like, I just want to run through it for you.
Not in front of me.
196 games for the LSU Tigers across 3 years. This dude, in 196 games, 43 doubles, 58 homers, 184 driven in. He was 23 for 28 in the stolen base department. He walked more than he struck out. And his career slash line in 938 plate appearances, 380, 498, 689 in the SEC.
Yeah.
How do you not take that guy 1-1?
Sounds good to me. He will be a top 10 prospect in the game the second he is selected.
Yep.
Number 2, Washington Nationals. You can pretty much lock this one in unless you think they were saying even if the Pirates did something nuts, the Nationals would still take Paul Skenes at number 2. It just seems like such a Nationals pick. And it's so poetic that, with Strasburg, with him being the best pitching prospect since Strasburg, and the unfortunate kind of demise of him physically, that, he's probably never going to pitch again, to have Skenes now kind of load right in here. We spent a lot of time on Skenes, so we don't need to go the full 8-9 minutes that we just went on Dylan Crews on Paul Skenes. We talked about him a ton, and you can go check out that Lowder Skenes episode. But I mean, this guy, it's pretty simple. 100-mile-an-hour fastball at average 98.5, but got higher and higher as the year went on. The slider is a big league plus pitch right now. And personally, the changeup really impressed me down the stretch here. He showed that changeup more in the postseason, and it looked really good. It's that simple. The fastball shape could be a bit better. I think he'll tweak it. I think he'll get there. Even if he doesn't, it doesn't matter. It's 98, 99. So maybe it plays like a 60 pitch instead of a 70 pitch, but it's a low effort. It repeats his mechanics so well. He was a two-way player, and you can see that on the mound. He's a great athlete, and he's a bulldog. It's an overused word, but he's a bulldog, and it's just that simple. This guy's going to climb quick as hell, and the Nationals, I mean, this is just going to help them in their reload here. I love what they're starting to do here in the system with their bats, and now they get their best arm. Another guy that'll be a top 15 prospect in the game.
Yeah, man. If you're going to deploy the word bulldog, this is the right guy to do it, because he was a lock to give you 120 pitches and 8 innings when you got into the regionals for Jay Johnson. So, like, this guy is revolutionary. I mean, like, his arm's incredible. And, like, I saw him go on ESPN and say, like, yeah, I see hitting in my future. Like, I want to try both. Like, he's not going to try both. The Nets are not going to have him do both. Skenes is so young into his pitching life that, I don't know, I almost view it as like a good thing. I almost view it as the DeGrom type thing. You know what I mean? Because he just started throwing in earnest. Before, he was doing both, and he was working out like he was doing both. Now, he as crazy as it sounds, with what we saw at LSU this year, there may be some untapped potential in the pitchability department.
Yeah, and the thing is he's already got some pretty good pitchability. I think the number one thing is the changeup. And then I think, he could just kind of miss middle with the fastball. Not that he did it a ton. He hit his spots pretty well. But, with the shape not being as elite, AA, AAA guys, and especially big league guys, they'll get to 98, 99 if you leave it over the middle. So there'll be some need to locate a bit better and or, get a little bit more better shape on that pitch. But, I mean, we're splitting hairs to basically make him one of the best pitchers in baseball, because that's what he'll be if the changeup field continues to kind of head in the direction that we think it is, and the fastball and the overall command just continues to get better. But special talent and the Nationals, it's just a perfect guy for them to get here.
No, I mean, Nat's dreaming on a future 3, and like by future, I mean very near future, like back half of next year, of Josiah Gray, the All-Star, Mackenzie Gore, and Paul Skenes. That gets me to the ballpark if I live in DC.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I'm with you. And I think there's a lot of reason to be excited out there. Brady House has been playing out of his mind. You got a lot of other pieces coming up.
James Bennett looks awesome. Great.
Jake Bennett. Look, you love Jake Bennett. I knew you'd love Jake Bennett. I texted you from the backfields that you'd love Jake Bennett. It just fits your mold. Number 3, no brainer here. I think the first 4 picks are like, I'd be floored if they don't go this way, but you never know with these drafts. Yeah. Number 3, Wyatt Langford, Detroit Tigers. They take the Florida outfielder who, I kind of mentioned this in the write-up here. He's as close. I think he is so much closer to Dylan Cruz than anybody thought would be possible of any prospect offensively. Really, it's still a no-brainer for me to take Cruz based on just all of the things we talked about. But Langford has just really proven, both statistically and just tools-wise, to be as close as humanly possible to the near-perfect Dylan Cruz. Langford hits the crap out of the ball. He gets into his power so easily. He's so strong. That's what really stood out to me in that College World Series, just looking at how physical he is. And he's pretty fluid for how physical he is. You'd think a guy that is that muscled up and that strong would be a little stiff. He's not. He's probably going to play left, but I think he could play a really good left. The approach is strong. And I know the numbers are right there with Dylan Cruz.
They are, and I'll run you through the numbers here in a moment, but I think that's the separator between Cruz and Langford, that Cruz is like a legit awesome center fielder, and Langford can be a legit awesome left fielder. I'll take the center fielder over the left fielder. This feels very Scoot Henderson-y, when Scoot is like the best draft prospect, for years in recent memory, but then he's got to deal with Wembanyama too. Like, that's what Cruz is. Cruz is just better than the best guy in recent years. Yeah. Langford is so ridiculously good, man. 134 games at Florida. In 134 games, 37 doubles, 47 homers, 120 driven in. He's walked more than he struck out. And this guy's slash line in 3 years, in 134 games, 363, 471, 746. These guys have insane success in the SEC. The Tigers are not going to overthink this one. Scott Harris is going to add best available, and it's going to be Langford.
And another guy that can climb quickly, and especially through the SEC ringer, the amount of talent that was in that league to do what they did is remarkable.
And he's going to immediately line up with Jace Young and Isaac Pacheco, and they'll get up, I think, at very similar times.
I'd say top 25, 30 prospects the second he's drafted. I'm excited to kind of add these guys in. I think I'm going to add them into the midseason update. I haven't fully decided yet. You and I will have to talk about that, but I figure why not? It's only a few guys.
He's got like 30 spots to fill. Might as well wait.
I know. All these dudes are graduating. Langford, no-brainer pick here. For the Rangers, I think this is as no-brainer as it gets too. You go Walker Jenkins in the outfield. And I promise we'll stray from the consensus pretty much starting with the next pick.
Yeah, but the very next one.
Texas Rangers, they have made no secret of how much they love Walker Jenkins. I've made no secret of how much I love Walker Jenkins. His swing, just purely from a swing standpoint, reminds me of Kyle Manzardo, but he has more power, at least at this stage, but I think has more power.
Yeah.
He's posting plus run times, has a shot to stick in center. Even if he doesn't stick in center, could play a really good left field if he slows down a couple steps. He's big with room for more projection, but the swing is one of my favorite high school swings I've seen in a while. It kind of reminding me of Marcelo Meyer, but I think he might even be a little bit more advanced with the stick than Meyer was right out of the draft. and the tools across the board are more exciting for me. I think if Jenkins and Meyer were in the same draft, I'd take Jenkins. And that just kind of shows you where I'm at on him. Of course, Meyer went 4-2 and was expected to potentially go even higher than that. I'm a big fan of Jenkins, and also very ironic that a lot of Rangers fans are still upset that the team passed on Meyer. Well, here you go. I think there's a lot of drafts where there's no shot a Walker Jenkins falls to you here, but because the top three are so college and college dominant type prospects, you can't go anywhere else other than those three in the top three. This is a blessing here for the Rangers at 4. I am a huge fan of Jenkins, and I think he could be, for lack of a better term, a steal at 4, even though I don't blame any of the teams ahead of them taking the guys that they take. I think this is exactly how I'd have it go if I had the first 4 picks myself. But man, it's just a victim of circumstance. Jenkins is way too good to go 4, I think.
Yeah, I think top 4 is just flat out awesome and the best in recent memory. Better swing than Tamar Johnson. That swing was like lauded out of the draft last year.
I think Tamar probably has him beat in terms of just like how special the bat speed is and all that good stuff.
Tamar's like a 5'8" second baseman. Jenkins is a big outfielder.
Yeah. So, I think that's kind of the conversation there. And if Tamar had the complementary tools that Jenkins has, he probably would have went 1. That was the one thing that held him back. His swing alone was what got him drafted that high. So Jenkins is special, no doubt the pick at 4. And another guy, I'll keep adding the context until I'm unsure as to whether they'll be top 100 or not. Walker Jenkins will be a top 75, top 60 prospect probably.
Yeah. At the beginning of the year, we mentioned that the Rangers, maybe failed to address the outfield situation, and we were worried about the outfield situation. But Adolis Garcia is an all-star. Leody Taveras has been awesome. Ezekiel Duran has been awesome. And Evan Carter is taking the step up. If the Rangers were hovering around 500, maybe slightly above, but the outfield production was a problem, maybe we would say, do they want like a college guy to line up with the contention window? Because they're so good right now and they've figured it out. We were just talking about this morning. I'm of the thinking that teams do account for what they have in the organization. I know that there are some teams that say, we don't necessarily think about that.
When best drafting, player available.
Yeah. Like I just disagree. I think
there's a balance and it's circumstantial. And like, there's certain picks here where I'll just be like, this is clearly the best player available.
Yeah.
I think in this instance, when you have a player like Walker Jenkins, you're just taking the best player available.
I think it's a both. Yeah, it's a bit of both.
But it would be silly to say that they completely disregard where they're at as an organization. Like that's just not going to be the case. Like, why are the Marlins so heavily coveting college bats then? Why are certain teams doing what they're like, taking the approach that they're taking? Why are the Rockies so heavily coveting arms? Like, again, it's silly to say that they completely disregard that. But I also don't think that they're like looking like, okay, how does this guy fit into our org? No, we can't take this guy. Like, it's a balance, of course. And ultimately, if you have a best player available that you at a position that you have a bunch of guys already, a lot of teams will take that guy still. So that's the argument, but there's a balance to the two sides of that.
For sure. And I think we're going to get it in that balance here at 5.
Yeah. Number 5 is an interesting one. And this is kind of the first of Joe Doyle, by the way, who does a great job with I think it's a Future Stars series covering the draft. He had a tweet today that I really liked that I think is a really important contextual thing, because in our mock drafts, we're always afraid to highlight the underslots and go out there and do it. But the last 3 drafts have had 8. Each of the last 3 drafts have had 8 underslot signings in the first round of at least $500,000. So we got to do them somewhere in the mocks. Where do we think they're going to happen? Here's one of them. Kyle Teel, catcher, UVA, goes to the Minnesota Twins. There's a lot of different directions the Twins can go here. And I think most mocks that you look at, they're going to have Max Clark going 5 because he's perceived as the 5th best prospect in the draft. But he's a high schooler. There's some questions there that I think could have him fall. We'll see. Khalil Watson was expected to go top 5, and then holy crap, that guy slid like crazy. I don't know if there's those kind of questions, but there's also just circumstantial stuff that can cause a guy to fall. And that circumstance being the top 4 being solidified, and then maybe picks 5 and 6 wanting to save or wanting to go a different route. Kyle Teel, I fell in love with the more I watched. The bat, there was some concerns around, the movement in his swing, but then he came out this year and hit 415 with 12 pumps while striking out 12% of the time. He's so athletic, so athletic behind the dish. Has gotten better as a receiver, threw out 33% of base stealers in his collegiate career. There's so many things that have gotten better. They say the footwork could get a little bit better. I agree, but like that'll get there. I think he sticks behind the dish. I think he's a great bat. And if you can save money and take the consensus top catching prospect in the draft here at 5, I love this pick here if the Twins decide to go this route. $7 million slot here. They could probably get Teel for $1 million less. I have no idea what the exact price tag would be, but they could save a lot here and get a player who I think is very worthy of going top 5 or 6.
Yeah, so last 3 college guys to go 5th overall. Cowser was well under slot. Elijah Green was right at slot in 22. Cowser was well under slot in 21. Austin Martin was over slot in 2020. And then in 2018, Jonathan India was about $600,000 under slot. So this is the spot where I think teams start to play around with the slot money. And we know which 2 worked out and which one hasn't to this point. But I want to go through a teensy bit of an exercise here. I loved Kyle Teel, watching him, during the conference tournament, watching him in the limited looks that I got during the regular season. And then, of course, in the NCAA tournament was great, too. And he seems like an incredibly high floor catcher. I think the Reds would be spoiled if Teel did slide to them. And I think they would jump on that opportunity. But I think this is a perfect fit for Minnesota. Here's our exercise. Who could, of the guys that I name, be the starting catcher for the Minnesota Twins in 2025? Let's start at the big league level. Christian Vasquez, who's 33 years old now.
No.
Ryan Jeffers.
Yeah, that's probably the favorite right now.
That's the favorite right now. Let's go to AAA. Tony Wolters at 31 years old.
No.
Mark Colesbury, Jair Camargo, Chris Williams. Any of those guys?
Nope.
How about David Banuelos, Patrick Winkle, Alex Isola, or Kyle Schmidt? No?
Nope.
You have to go to Cassetti in high A right now. Andrew Cassetti.
And I like Cassetti. A lot of people like Cassetti.
But I like Teel more.
Yeah. The Cassetti's, he's a good prospect, but underrated prospect. But yeah, let's go Kyle Teel here. Like, let's not overthink that one.
There's nothing going on there at the catching. There's nothing stopping him. And the Twins, if they want to get better, they add a catcher.
And imagine now you go from having what you just highlighted, very little answers behind the dish in your organization, to not only having one of the better catching prospects, I think, in the minors. I know it's a very loaded position right now. A lot of guys are going to graduate, but Teel would probably be a top 100 prospect catcher. And you get to save money while doing that too. So you're basically trading back, taking Teel, and trading up with your next pick. That sounds good to me.
Do you like, if we were to look at this top 100 at the midseason update, when you do add Teel, is Teel ahead or behind Kevin Parada?
Ahead. I like, because he actually can catch, and I think the bat, like Parada, I think the bat's going to get going, but until proven otherwise, Teel, I think could be a better bat now too, a more well-rounded bat.
I think Parada was a clear-cut good pick last year, and I think Teel is going to be a clear-cut good pick anywhere he goes.
I agree. You ready for the most wild and pick we have now? This is the mega underslot.
I'm really excited.
I could see this. I really could. Number 6, Oakland A's take Chase Davis, outfielder from Arizona. Slot value here is $6.6 million. I think you could get Chase Davis for 4. I think 4. What's the slot value of pick 20, pick 18?
Let's see. As I open Google Docs,
as you pull that up, here's my approach, and then I'll get into why I think Chase Davis is worthy of a top 10 pick, especially with the savings.
18 is $4,021,000, so just above $4 million.
So that's exactly what I think you can get Chase Davis for $4 to $4.2 million. You save almost $3 million, $2.5 million on Chase Davis, and the Oakland A's have picks 39 and 41. So now you can scatter $2.5 million over picks 39 and 41 there. And I'm going to mention this with a couple of the teams that I have kind of trading back with this underslot, there's a ton of prep talent in the back end of the first round. And how often do these, high price tag prep guys who have no problem going to college end up slotting, and they either leave their price tag extremely high and a team's maybe willing to meet it. If they're not, they go to college. But you have $2.5 million to meet the price tag of several different guys that could fall out. Let's say Blake Mitchell, who's viewed as the top high school catching prospect in this draft, doesn't have his price tag met in the first round here and slides. You could offer him a $1.5 million overslot, give him basically mid-first round money here, and now you have Chase Davis and Blake Mitchell, 2 top 15, top 20 talents. Like, that approach here, if you really like Chase Davis, is it. And there's people in the industry that think Chase Davis is a top 5 bat in this draft. I think that might be a little extreme, but if there's people in the industry that believe that, well-respected people in the industry that believe that, let's broaden it to top 10 bat in the draft. You maybe Oakland is one of those people that believe that. Maybe Oakland has some brass that think that way. Well, now you can save $2.5 million and get some studs in your 2 other picks here. I think this would be an area to cook if you can get Chase Davis for $4 million.
We were texting a little bit this morning, and I told you that I was in love with Chase Davis. Again, like in just my crash course, Davis was one of those guys that jumped out. And there are other guys with, like larger name recognition, like Enrique Bradfield, Tommy Troy, when you look at college bats. Chase Davis struggled in 27 games his freshman year, but he had a 997 OPS his sophomore year. He has a pretty underwhelming 15-game sample on the Cape, but then he comes back this year, hit 362, walked more than he struck out. The whiff was there his sophomore year. It wasn't there this year. 21 pumps. He slugged 742. Hombre had a 1231 OPS in 57 games in the Pac-12 this year. He was a dominating figure when he was right this year.
He basically answered every question, every single question. And that's why I think this could be a steal. You're grabbing a guy right as he's ascending to maybe peak value, or some teams will be concerned and say not enough track record. I think Oakland can afford to roll the dice here. Contact rate went from 67% to 80% from last year to this year. Zone contact from 78% to 85%. He cut his chase rate down by almost 10%. And that's why you see everything across the board improve. And he walked as much as he struck out. The power's plus. The swing is a replica of Carlos Gonzalez, the multi-all-star with the Rockies, which he admits to literally trying to replicate. And he does it really well. This guy could go nuclear. There's a little bit of risk in this pick, but I think it's worth it for the savings because, that hedges some of the risk. And you can go with, you're basically trading into the first round with your 2 other picks.
It's a tricky game that the Oakland A's are going to play, especially with optics where they are right now surrounding that team. If they were to underslot at 6, everybody's going to say, oh, classic Oakland A's looking for a budget slash. Chase Davis is a really good underslot option.
100%. I'm with you. Number 7, this is a pick that I want more than anything. I think an option for Rhett Lowder to the Cincinnati Reds at 7. He could also go to the Twins at 5. I think that's an option. He could go to Oakland at 6. I don't think he's falling past the Reds at 7. I think Teel or Lowder make all the sense in the world, as you mentioned earlier. Lowder really solidified himself as, I think, the number 2 pitching prospect in this draft by going toe-to-toe with the number 1 pitching prospect in this draft. There were some concerns about the fastball quality. I think that's a joke. It's a good enough fastball. It's mid-90s up to 97. Good arm side run, picks up above average ground ball rate, spots it, 73% strike rate on the changeup, 70% strike rate across his entire arsenal. The slider is a 55 pitch, but he spots it so well that it plays like a 60. Changeup is a 55 pitch, but he spots it so well it plays like a 60. The command is phenomenal. He'll climb quickly. He fits the Reds' timeline and instantly becomes, which I think is saying a lot with the emergence of Connor Phillips, with some of the other guys that are really performing, he becomes the Reds' best pitching prospect. I love everything about what Rhett Lowder is doing, and I think this is a no-brainer fit. They may save a few bucks, but I'd be willing to give him the full slot value at $6.2 million.
For sure. It's funny how history repeats itself. May 21, 1981. This is like the best college pitching matchup ever. Ron Darling at Yale Frank Viola at St. John's. Darling, 12 innings of 1 hit, 1 run ball. He was no hit through 11. Frank Viola, 11 innings, 7 hits, no runs. Each of them threw over 160 pitches. Like that is, you go in the history books. The 2023 version of that, obviously nobody's throwing 160, 100. Ron Darling threw 190 pitches in that game in 12 innings. No pitcher on earth is throwing 12 innings in 2023. No pitcher on earth is eclipsing 150 pitches except Braden. No, not Braden Montgomery. Who was the Stanford kid?
Oh,
Quinn Matthews.
Yeah,
Quinn Matthews. But like that Lowder Skenes matchup was this repeating itself. It's two, and those guys both turned into excellent major league pitchers. These are two guys that we know are going to pitch for a long time at the highest level that are matching up at an instant classic in college. And Lowder totally proved that he belonged, which was really cool. And I think you saw that competitive MF energy from Rhett Lowder that everyone saw from Skenes because everyone wanted to talk about it. Now, I mean, I think that you have it with Lowder. And just speaking to the Red situation real quick, Abbott, Lodolo, Green, Connor Phillips, Petty. After that, like I don't feel good about
Ashcraft. It's a lot of volatility. It's a lot of volatility though, and
go grab a wonky but safe guy.
This is it's just so relaxing to add a Rhett Lowder with the volatility they have. Lyon Richardson is special with how hard he throws, but volatility central. It's all a lot of the Kyle Bodie guys are still there, which are really exciting arms, but volatile.
Well, they freak the shit out of you, yeah.
Yeah, Lowder's refreshing, and I think perfect for this team.
Yeah.
Number 8, finally, because I'm sure people are wondering, where the hell's Max Clark? The Reds ain't picking Max Clark, and that's kind of my point here. If it's Max Clark or who you're probably going to have to go over slot for, the Reds would rather just take Rhett Lowder. And that's why I think Kansas City Royals, they're willing to go a little bit over slot here to snag Max Clark and make it happen. Clark plays his high school ball less than 500 miles away, and I think it's a good fit. The Royals, this is just take the best player available. You could say the Royals need pitching, whatever. They need a lot of things.
Yeah.
They need a lot of things, and you get the best player available here, a Max Clark who the tools are immense. It's 70 run times. It's plus defense in center field. It's an elite arm in center field. It's a plus field to hit. The power may be fringy, and I do have some concerns that the swing path is a little too flat to where very high ground ball rates may take him some time to produce. But that said, pretty high floor for a high school prospect, given that you're getting an elite center fielder potentially, the bat to ball skills being that good. And he's just a phenomenal athlete that's wiry strong, good football player out there in the Midwest. And I like the fit with the Royals as a regional kid. This seems like he can't fall past the Royals at 8 if he slides to here.
For sure. Yeah. And he's a really athletically gifted guy. He works very hard. And I think his video team makes sure everybody knows that he works very hard.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, Max Clark is like a freak athlete that I don't know. I view the floor as like Michael Ciani. I've watched a lot of Ciani recently, where Ciani's a really good defensive center fielder, but like he's, knocking on the door of the big leagues because he's hitting 215. Like that, I guess, is my.
I think that would be if everything went to shit. Yes.
So like that's what I'm saying. Very floor. That's a floor, and I think that the floor is Ciani.
It's like a 40-man guy.
Yeah, a 40-man guy.
And I think the other 90, there's so many outcomes of where he is just so much better than that too. That's the cool thing is if he taps into average juice, now you have a potential perennial all-star. If the power is fringy and he puts the ball on the ground too much, he's still an above average regular with dynamic ability. And there's just a lot of different ways where he can be a consistent contributor. I'm interested to see how much power he taps into. I'm interested to see, how that swing kind of turns into maybe spraying the ball all over. And I think he could do that because he's so athletic and just kind of being a line drive guy. I think there's a lot of different ways where he can be a very good big leaguer. And this is a great pick here to be able to get Max Clark at 8. I think the Royals would be over the moon to get a guy with 70 runs, 70 arm, 60 field and at least potentially 50 power, but I think it'll be closer to 45. But that said, 60 hit potentially. A lot of really exciting tools across the board.
Yeah, for sure.
Number 9, it just seems like this is the most Rockies pick ever.
Yeah.
Rockies they've made no secret that they want to take an arm. They take Chase Dolander here, right-handed pitcher out of Tennessee. I mean, this is the most talented arm available. Unless you want to go high school, which I just don't see them going high school. I see them going college arm, most talented college arm. Dolander's a special talent still. There's no doubting that. Really disappointing season, but as we've seen become abundantly clear over the last couple of years, you take the arm, not the results. And though the results were frustrating, the arm is extremely talented. Fastball averages 96 with ridiculous life, great shape. The secondaries all flash above average to plus. I mean, there's a potential world where the slider is plus and the changeup is plus. I think the slider and changeup end up being 55 grade pitches. Curveball is a fine fourth offering, but his command of the secondary stuff was just frustrating. His walk rate ballooned this year. He fell behind in counts, and I think it masked the actual quality of his fastball because he had to lean on it so much. And Dolander just didn't put together a good season. That said, he's too talented to slip out of the top 10.
Pete Flaherty retweeted, or it might have been him that tweeted it out. I don't think it was. I think I saw him retweet something, and I'm totally blanking on, where he got this from. So apologies for not properly attributing, but I'm attributing the attributor in Pete Flaherty. He put out a split between first inning ERA for Dolander and ERA innings 2 through the end of his starts. And the first inning ERA was like near 9. And after that, it was sub 2. I don't know what that means. Yu Darvish has long had a high first inning ERA, but Darvish has overcome that. Dolander, like if you just look at the pitch shape and pitch data for all these, I mean, he looks world class, right? He looks amazing and like the clear cut number 2 pitcher in this class. But this is a production game, man. And I understand that you want to take the pitches, but you got to look at what he did in his college tenure as well. And this was just, relatively speaking, not a good year for Dolander. Yeah. I think that the Rockies are going to capitalize by grabbing this guy at 9. You have that many pitches that profile well just from data. You're going to figure out 2 or 3 of them that work at zero gravity.
And this is the guy that has a chance to be a frontline starter. The Rockies need high upside pitching. It just seems like the perfect fit here. It's risky. I see them being more than fine with being risky. Like that's what they do.
And they'll throw him on the escalator. I mean, Gabriel Hughes is already in AA. Like I could see Dolander getting to AA at this point next year.
Yep. And I think this would be the good pick for them. I'd be happy with the pick if I'm a Rockies fan and just a little nervous and see how it goes, but extremely talented.
For sure.
Number 10, Marlins. The Miami Marlins take Matt Shaw, second base / shortstop. I should put second base / shortstop because he predominantly played shortstop. I think a lot of evaluators think he moves to second, but can't relegate him from shortstop until you relegate him from shortstop. And if how the Marlins have handled Jacob Berry tells you anything, maybe they'll give Matt Shaw every shot at short. But you're drafting Shaw for the bat here. The Marlins have been tied to Tommy Troy. They've been tied to Jacob Gonzalez. They've been tied to basically any high floor college bat you can throw in here. But if they feel like Matt Shaw is on the same level as those guys, then why not take Shaw, who you will definitely be able to save some money on here? And the Marlins, there's no farm system that has been more depleted over the last couple of years than the Marlins. And the Marlins have pick number 35 and they have pick number 42. So there's another instance where you need to inject as much talent as possible, I think, into this system, especially with the Marlins potentially being buyers at the deadline with whatever they have left. Try to trade into this first round by trading back, so to speak, with the savings here with Matt Shaw. At 35, they've worked out a bunch of different high school middle infielders that they like. I think that allows you to overslot at 35 to sign one of those high school, those prep middle infielders. And you end up getting Shaw, who's a really good bat, good power, good feel to hit, should climb quickly, and at least can play multiple positions in the infield. and then you can go get another first-round talent in the middle infield. The Marlins need that more than they need oxygen.
Yeah, my only pushback here is you guys have long been clamoring for a shortstop. Don't you want a guy that can stick at shortstop?
Maybe. Shaw might be able to. Maybe he will. If he can't, I think they'd take a high school shortstop with the next pick. So now you got 2 shots. So that's my thought here. Because if you go full slot value for Jacob Gonzalez, and then you aren't able to shoot as high with your next pick, I'd rather go underslot for Matt Shaw and go higher, upside with the next pick.
Yeah, and just looking at the line numbers on Matt Shaw, like he's been a perfect baseball player the last 2 years at Maryland, and this year he leveled up. He was 986 OPS last year. This year, 62 games /341, 445, 697, 43 walks, 42 punchouts, 18 for 19 in the stolen base department, 24 homers in 62 games. Like, it's perfect. There's nothing to. You're grabbing a guy that is like Marlins fans can get excited when looking at his baseball reference page. And that's what you want, man. I
think he would instantly. You're underslotting. This puts in perspective. You're going to underslot a guy who instantly becomes your best hitting prospect. And then the guy that they overslot maybe with the next pick could easily be their second best hitting prospect. So that's big reason why I want to see them do that. Contact rate of 84% is elite.
Yeah.
And, I think good in the ACC was 78% last year. So 84% is elite. Aggressive-ish. So I'm interested to see how that translates, but I think it's just because he literally hit everything. Power to all fields, 90th percentile of 107. Like, this guy is so much better than what they took last year and cheaper. So I think this is the pick for the Marlins here. And I have a weird feeling that this is where they might go, but they could also go Jacob Gonzalez.
Can I say the numbers are eerily similar to another Maryland Terrapin, actually with better power output? Brandon Lau is another guy that was a Maryland Terrapin. And I mean, these lines are almost identical except for the homer totals, and Matt Shaw blows Brandon Lau's numbers out of the water. So I think if they got Brandon Lau, you're super happy.
Yes. Oh yeah, you are. Like, especially the early Brandon Lau.
Yeah.
Number 11. So this was a tough one because the Los Angeles Angels have so frequently gone with the last few years have gone with the fast climber who can help me win right now. And I'm curious what you think about this because, again, this is like where every team says best player available. Clearly that the Angels were going player who can get to us the quickest. And I don't know if they need to do that this year. I think that they're in a spot now where you should take the best player available. And so many of they just traded Coleman Crow, who I know he's not elite, but he's one of their better pitching prospects. They also traded a guy that they recently drafted in the 4th round. And I think they're going to move more arms. If they make a trade this year, they're going to trade their top prospect in Edgar Caro. But then if you want to get a deal done, you're going to have to attach Kai Bush or Silseth or whoever. You're going to have to attach pitching because they took so many arms, and those are all the top guys that they are going to be able to offer. I think for the Angels here, you don't overthink it. You go for the best player available or the best arm available here. And I think it's Noble Meyer. I'm really floored by the stuff. And overall, the team that has taken the top prep arm has been rewarded over the last few years. You could say maybe Job, but I think Job is going to go nuts very soon. We got to talk about Job in the next episode. I've been digging into that data recently. I also got to talk to my buddy Mike Rothenberg, who caught his last outing, and he said it was comical how much the stuff was moving. So that's a whole sidebar. Noble Meyer, 97 mile an hour fastball, 95 to 97. He's 6'5" righty with a plus slider. He looks just like Mick Abel. If you can get Mick Abel at 11 here, I'm doing it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I even think about what's going on last year. Like, top prep arm was Dylan Lesko to San Diego. And I think the Padres feel really good about Lesko.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, my looks are incredibly limited for these high school guys. But what I will say is that frame, you look at it and you just dream of like frontline guy. And I think that much to what you're saying, the Angels are in the position now where they can move away from, we need Ben Joyce here like end of this year. We're going to grab Sonny DeShera because he's going to be assigned to Double-A. Like, I don't think we need to do that anymore. Shit, Neto's up now. Like, If they did feel that sense of urgency, Waldrep is still available.
Yeah.
I don't think they feel that sense of urgency, and I think that you take the guy that you can dream on to have a way higher ceiling than Waldrep in Noble Meyer.
Well, and I think that there's going to be a bidding war to a point in the middle of the first round, because I know you floated Waldrep to the Angels, and I liked that thought. But then we're going to get to the next pick where I actually have Waldrep going. I think the next team would bid a little bit higher, and if you're bidding towards the full slot value or close to it, I'd rather just go with Meyer, who you might still be able to go below the slot value because a lot of people don't have him going in the top 15. I'd rather go with the higher upside arm. Waldrep, you got to tweak some things, and we'll get into that. And I don't know if the Angels are the best organization to do that.
No.
They have not developed pitching that well. They have picked guys that climb quickly and do well, but they've not developed pitching well. Noble Meyer is somebody that I think you add, I think, the highest upside guy that you can add into the fold here, and somebody that can really make this system stronger. The last thing I'll say in the Angels is the approach of going with the closest proximity guy has kind of left them with somewhat of a weak farm. Yes, it got them Zach Neto. Yes, it got them Reed Detmers. That's great. And that's really good. And I'm not saying that they should stray from that strategy. I'm not saying they shouldn't have done it. But a lot of the other picks, as you mentioned, the second, third, fourth round, were guys that were either going to get there quickly or just never get there and not be very good, as we've talked about with Teixeira, and like Ben Joyce may never even really be that good of a reliever. I don't know. They need to kind of go back to the best player available approach here, and that's why I like the Meyer pick.
Last thing on the Angels. Here's to hoping they don't panic, but Mike Trout fractured left hamate.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Trout fractured left hamate.
Fuck. That just came out?
Yeah, 5 minutes ago.
How long?
I mean, a hamate fracture is probably...
It takes a while to even feel right after that. He's probably out for the season.
Yeah, I'm thinking very, very minimum 2 months.
Every guy I've talked to that's gotten that, it says it takes a while to feel like yourself again swinging it. Shit, that sucks.
He might be done. It might be a fast track to, like the postseason, but shit, man.
Poor dude, man. Jeez. Well, definitely go best player available. Inject as much talent as you can into that system. They got to make a trade.
Yep.
Number 12, Hurston Waldrep. There we go. The Diamondbacks have been said to want an arm here. They're pursuing an arm. And why not go for Waldrep, who, I mean, that splitter is insane. That's a big league pitch right now. That would get big league hitters out right now. Fastball is high velocity, bad shape. I was shocked by the lack of swinging strikes and the lack of whiff numbers there. But you figure you can tweak the shape, hopefully. The velocity's there. The splitter is gnarly. The breaking balls have flashed, but they're just so inconsistent. He's a guy that really needs to get, I think, under the care of a big league team, big league organization, and kind of make some tweaks to his arsenal, some tweaks to the way he goes about his delivery. And you could unlock a frontline guy, but there's a lot of volatility to the selection here. That said, I think the Diamondbacks feel okay with taking arguably the best arm available here.
Yeah. So Waldrep, I'm with you. Like, a lot needs to change here. And I think that, like walking 5 guys per 9 when you are a dominating arm results in a low 4s in the SEC. Like, when he gets into pro ball and he meets a level, it might be 6 walks per 9, like, because he'll start to nibble a little bit more than he did at Florida. So he needs to find some sort of consistency that allows him to get deeper into starts. This is the first guy that I look at and I say, there's a chance that he's a bullpen arm.
And the number one thing is fastball quality. He's got to find a way to make that fastball better. You cannot be having your fastball hit as much as his was when you're throwing mid to upper 90s. It just shouldn't happen. And when you have that splitter as well, that should have hitters kind of thinking about it and having the fastball getting on him quicker, 89% zone contact against your fastball can't fly.
Yeah.
When you got that kind of splitter. He couldn't land the curve for a strike this year. It was sub 50% strike rate. And it was really just all about the splitter. And if the splitter wasn't there, he got shellacked. So there's a lot to like when you got a 70 grade changeup in that split, and that split's kind of taken over baseball. So I think a team could fall in love with him here. And I think, the Diamondbacks loved Bryce Jarvis because of the changeup. Maybe they fall in love with a changeup guy with an iffy fastball here, or it deters them. I don't know. But I think Waldrep's worth a shot here, and you could probably save a few bucks. And there's a lot of upside to like here. There's some people out there that think Waldrep could be a frontline guy and that want him in the top 10. I think if the Diamondbacks can snag him at 12 here with their desire for pitching, wouldn't surprise me.
For sure. Wouldn't surprise me either. Only thing I will say is like this guy immediately screams volatility though when Skenes, Lowder, Dolander does as well, but Dolander's like a starter. If he fails, he's going to fail as a starter. Waldrep, like I can close my eyes and easily see, setup guy working off of that splitter, which is a little nerve-wracking at 12, but with what you have to dream on of him being a frontline starter, it's worth taking at 12.
And down the stretch, he might have flashed enough in front of a lot of scouts to take a shot. I mean, he goes 7 innings of 12 Ks, 1-run ball against Connecticut. He goes 8 innings of 13 Ks, scoreless ball, 2 walks against South Carolina, and then against Oral Roberts, 6 innings, 7 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, 12 Ks. So when you're racking up 37 Ks and three starts, there could have been some evaluators there that he kind of cast a spell on, and maybe they're convincing the draft department, the GM, to take a shot here. 13 is a fun one, and this is somebody that has as much helium as anyone. Chicago Cubs could go a bunch of different directions, but I think they go with the highest upside player here, and it's Arjun Nimmala. Nimmala is starting to turn a lot of heads because of his ability to tap into what is starting to look like plus power, despite being 6'1", 180. He's very wiry and already producing exciting exit velocities. He's also one of the youngest guys in this draft. He's 17 years old. He'll be 17 still on draft day. Good feel for the game. Looks good at shortstop. I think that the Cubs were hoping they had something in Ed Howard. They were hoping that they had something with some of their other middle infield guys. This instantly becomes their highest upside middle infield guy. And Nimmala, I think, is someone that could even fly higher if the helium continues to mount here. There's a lot to like and a lot to dream on.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot to dream on physically. You mentioned the slight frame, like, tall, skinny guy that's playing shortstop right now. Not even tall at 6'1", but
he might grow more. He's 17.
So if he fills out a little bit more, while he finishes puberty while in professional baseball, I mean, this guy, there's a chance he can turn into a blue chip, like true shortstop. And that creates flexibility for the Cubs because he could either, say like Dansby or Nico Horner takes a nosedive. Nimmala could be, that guy of the future that you look at. He could also take off. They turn into a contender. And I'm just thinking about like down the road, like that creates another great prospect that people can dream on because he's so young, because he'll have X amount of reps in the minor leagues. I think that would be awesome if the Cubs landed with this guy.
I'm not sure there's a higher upside player outside the top 10.
Really?
I mean, to see the exit velocities he's putting up right now with that frame, and he's got a pretty good feel for the bat. And I think he's going to grow more. He's 17. It all checks out to me. Like, this is the highest upside guy, I think, outside of the top 10.
Fascinating.
Number 14, as we wrap up part 1 of this draft episode, and then we will have part 2 coming up tomorrow. Boston Red Sox, they've been tied to a bunch of different collegiate bats. The guy that falls to them kind of in their lap here, I think they could go Tommy Troy, but if Jacob Gonzalez falls in their lap here, I think they take Jacob Gonzalez. I know you could say, oh, they have Marcelo Meyer. This is one of those instances where you're just taking the best player available. Yeah. The Red Sox are continuing to try to build that farm system. That's been a priority for Chaim Bloom, and they want to get good. They want to improve their ability at the big league level. They want to improve their team at the big league level. You do that by stockpiling controllable young talent. You're not going to not take Jacob Gonzalez if he falls into your lap because you have Marcelo Meyer. And also, besides Marcelo Meyer, there's not that much middle infield talent. You have Nick York. He's playing second base. You got some other guys that are far off. I think this is just take the best player that falls into your lap with the bloodlines, good field to hit, good defense. Again, if they really like Tommy Troy, I think Tommy Troy is extremely underrated. They could take him, but this is already kind of the floor, I think, for Gonzalez. I'd be surprised to see him slip any further. Bloodlines, so much to like. I think Red Sox fans would be thrilled with this.
How good of an athlete do you think he is?
I think that's the one deficient area. I think that's the one deficient. He's one of those guys that isn't a great athlete, but moves well. So he can play a good shortstop. But I think he turns in like below average run times.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Like, he seems smooth. He seems like a good hitter. But I question the athletic prowess.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that like he's like, we're not saying, oh, he's, lazy, fat, like slow, whatever. We're just saying, like, in this era of shortstop play, the best are like athletic freaks, or they're the smoothest dudes on the planet, like Meyer. Lawler's a better athlete than Meyer, but Meyer is smooth as silk. So if you're not, that freak athlete talent, you better be smooth as hell. And it sounds like Gonzalez is more smooth than freak athlete.
And I think you're not getting freak at 14. You're getting smooth if you're lucky. And that's what they're getting here. Tommy Troy is too much Nick York for me. Like I know you take best player available, but like those guys are they're like almost the Spider-Man meme. Although I will say Tommy Troy way more advanced hitter. I actually think Tommy Troy is a better prospect than Nick York at this stage. But just going with the second baseman, that's bat first, all that good stuff. I think Jacob Gonzalez is a nice snag here. 90% zone contact, above I would say average exit velocities. That's kind of my concern. But that would play at Fenway. He's 21, good glove, lefty bat. I think it's one of those, if he falls into your lap, you kind of have to. But again, I could see the Marlins taking him at 10. So I'd be shocked if he fell to 14, or not shocked, surprised. And in this case, the Red Sox snag the guy that falls into their lap and take the best player available. And the White Sox, I won't give it away, but I like who they're taking at 15 for the next episode as we do part 2 of the draft coming up tomorrow.
Yep.
That'll do it. I'm depressed about Mike Trout now, so thanks for that.
Got you.
We'll do part 2 tomorrow. We got an interview coming up with Kobe Mayo of the Baltimore Orioles. Look out for that. Still walking in a day, but very pumped for that. If you've listened to this podcast, how much we like Kobe Mayo and how talented he is. Already top 100 guy, will be top 50 guy. And of course, that Mariners thing's coming out eventually too. But very excited to hit on part 2 with y'all. Hope you enjoyed your 4th of July. Hope you enjoyed your day off. And hopefully it's not rainy where you're at like it is here in New York. Jack, have a great call on the 4th of July. And I'm looking forward to breaking down part 2 with you and our listeners tomorrow of this 2023 mock draft.